Okay. If you enjoyed listening to me ramble methodically thus far, I definitely appreciate you going on this ride. I'm sure you'll find this information pretty helpful. Um, the last video I was kind of talking about the importance of these categories when going into a new season. This time I'm gonna, I guess, finish up hopefully with the rest of these and how important they are. And kind of wrap it up in a nice little bow for you. So in the last video, I was talking about how technologies can be a little misleading as far as rating them. Overall, basically, um, because technology is a measure of mainly like how strong your shooters, fighters, and melee are. Shooters, melee, and cavalry. I'm sorry, I forget about cavalry because they're trash. But yes, because they're a measure of that, this number at a certain point doesn't matter. I guess I'll do at the end like a video and really, I've probably mentioned how you should play the game, but I'll say here. When you enter the game, if you don't want to spend a whole bunch of money but want to be really, really, really good, you need to focus on one thing and then make that your bread and butter until you stop playing. So if I came into the game and said, hey, I want to score the highest on all the events always, then I would focus on shooters. If I came into the game and said I wanted to be the best in battle most of the time or nearly always, I would focus on melee. And then if I said I wanted to come in the game and just waste money on something so that my Ezekiel can look pretty, I would say let me focus on cavalry. Um, a lot of cavalry shade, but it is what it is. So anyways, basically, if you divide, I won't say if you divide this number by 3, but essentially if you divide this number by 3, you kind of can get an idea of how strong someone is, like especially someone like Troublemaker. Troublemaker's power right now says to me that he probably has melee, shooters, and cavalry almost max, if not all the way max. Probably not all the way max, but pretty up there. And I can tell you right now, my number doesn't even represent cavalry. Do I have a little bit of cavalry developed? Sure. But I assure you that this number is only reflective of my ability to have shooters and melee developed. So all these other people are probably in the same boat where Sleepy shooters and melee are probably higher than mine. But then that's the thing too. Sleepy could have spent most of the first part of his game, like the first 4 or 5 seasons, developing cavalry and then switched over to melee or shooter. So while my two that I have up pretty high are um, shooters and melee, his two could be cavalry and melee or cavalry and shooter. And again, with Donuts not being too much higher than mine, this just means that if he has chosen 2 of them, that they are probably a little bit higher than mine. So I guess the main thing is this number is reflective of, especially on 200 millions, that someone has multiple multiple troop types, like very well developed. And by very well developed, I mean probably all of the stats that increase the overall stats, plus some of the individual attack and or defense. Someone asked me to do a video of like what I got going on in my own square or whatever, so I'll show that probably a little bit later. But moving on. So recruits, again, when it comes to evaluating a server's power, I look at like how many probably are in the top 20, and it kind of depends on what the range is. 48 to 30 is a difference of 18 million. So I think that's a fairly fair range. And then you only have 2 people really above 40. So really the range is 40 to 30. And so that's why I look at how many people from each server are in that top 20. I guess if the numbers are closer together, like if there were like 50 people in the range of 40 to 30, I would look at 50 instead of 20. But as you can see here, purple at the top. And what I look at when it comes to recruits, you can go into detail, you can kind of tap and see like what that equates to. So overall, Caroline is at 233 for donuts. Mine is at, where's 17? 199. So greater than 30 levels behind. I can tell you money wise, it costs about $100 to go up a level, probably a little bit more, because once you like get up into the 180s, I think it costs about $1 million experience or whatever to go up to the next level. I think it cost me 1.4 million to go up to the next level. So unless you like buy the right stuff, it's going to cost you probably about $100 to go up until the next level. So if I say it's going to cost me $100 and it's going to cost, and I'm like 30 levels behind, that's like $3,000 right there just to catch up. If I wanted to do that and I don't find like the best deals. Let's see who else is up there. 38. So they're pretty high, but it's good to not overreact, because another thing that you don't know, well, I guess another thing to look at is like the active bus or whatever, but another thing to look at is what are the percentages on their equipment. So let's go with these two. 63%, 66%. When I go to mine, 44% and 54%. So he's 12% higher on this and like 20% higher on this. 12 and 20 sometimes don't make the biggest difference in battle. If it were attack damage dealt and attack or damage dealt and damage received buffs, those typically seem to have the biggest impact, like percentage wise. Those usually are smaller percentages, like 1 or 2, but those 1 or 2 percentages are usually better than like the 10 and 20 or 30 or 40% differences in between attack. But if I were losing to them and it was by a marginal amount, this is the stuff I was like, man, I'm like 12% behind here. If I increase this, then I might be fine. So that's what I look at with recruits. Vehicles, again, just tells you how many max formations they can have. And if you just look at the first number, you don't really have to go into. This tells me that they have most of their stuff max. Where's load? Because that's the most wasteful shit. So even, let me see. Is there one with no max load? This one doesn't have a max load, 57. What is not max here? 30. This one, again, not a max load, level 10, 55. So you can see anything pretty much over 50, 55 million. They have max fighting attributes. Max fighting. So with that, and then Animal's a good indicator of probably what they have the most research on, being that they have a melee. Okay. So you look at the speed. Speed is like the most dangerous dog stat you could have. If they have shooter attack speed and melee attack speed, that's where their technology probably is at. And as you can see, this person, is this Donut? Yeah. Donut is all melee and shooter. Which, I mean, the higher level people are going to focus on those things, because I told you that cavalry is trash. And if you didn't believe it before I said it, I mean, this has got to be, you shouldn't need any more proof. This person has 5 dogs and all of them, oh, this is the only cavalry dog, I bet you. So they have 1 cavalry dog, 1 straight shooter dog, and then the rest of them are a mix of melee and shooter. So again, that's a very high level, I won't say high level, but all the top players have their setups like that. This is a different player, troublemaker, with the same kind of setup. Speed. And the reason for that is because melee is trash. Not melee, I'm sorry. It's because cavalry is trash. The reason for that is because cavalry is trash. Cool names. Give you that. So all of this is very telling. Maybe at the end of the season, I will talk to you guys about some of the things I can't talk about now because I actually got to fight these guys and try to figure out how to beat them. But yeah, I'll definitely do an end of the season thing and kind of talk about the secret things that I know I can't talk about right now. All right. So again, we looked at all the ranking categories. Overall power, I guess saying that there are 5 out of 10 isn't very helpful. I would say on average, look at the ones that are important. You look at overall power and then you look at things that are important that actually contribute to stats like town hall, combat survivors, war cards, technologies, recruits, vehicles, animals. You look at those things and see how well that aligns. For the most part, gold is in charge as far as overall power goes. And then other things that support that would be their animals because they have the most in the top 20 for animals. They have the most for the top 20 in vehicles. They have the most for the top 20 in recruits. They have the most of the top 20, I think, for, well, no, not tech, but for work cards for sure. And I think town hall, was that it? Yeah, but just barely town hall. So they'll have fairly decent formations. It looks like they may not have the tech to back up. But again, technology is one of those things that could be rather misleading. This just means that like they might have one strong formation, or they might only use cavalry. They might only use shooters, or they might only use melee. That's all this technology is telling me. But they are well rounded everywhere else. So if they use 4 formations of shooters, probably going to be in trouble. If they use 4 formations of melee, probably going to be in trouble. And that's why technology, it can be misleading. I think that I'm on probably over time with this video. Well, of course, you guys have any questions, you can always message me underneath each video. I'll definitely reply. Or I plan to release these like in 2 or 3 day increments, so you guys can ask questions in between, and I could probably try to do a follow-up video before the next video comes out. All right, thanks for watching.